Welcome back, guys. In this one, we'll be really looking at an exciting thing. We're looking literally at like the interface of the Cisco Packet Tracer. Previously, we've spoken about how to set it up, and we did a little experimenting. So, just giving a brief show of really how the Cisco Packet Tracer actually works. It's actually a simple and straightforward one. If you've been working with softwares for long, you would always know about the menu bar that's always here. So, and of course, all this looks very familiar. And one new thing you may need to know is this option here, open samples. So for every Cisco, packet tracer update or software, there are usually like example files which you can literally open and play around with. That's really like an exciting part of it. So imagine if you want to talk on DHCP, HTTP, like they've already made example files which you can really utilize and play around with or experiment. And like you can see this here, you're seeing all the commands and how to really do some works on it. So stuff like this are things that you really get to see. Sample files, especially when you're learning, right? It's really going to be something super exciting. And that's for that. And yes, this is when you want to save your file. You save. Normally, Packet Tracer usually has a lot of extension, the PKT, PKZ, and all of that. But normal files are saved with the .pkt. You know that hey, those are um on packet tracer files. Then for the PKZ, save your packet tracer file and package external resources with it. For the PKA is usually activity files, ones that are expecting you to do an activity and it's remotely stored. So not to bore you about that, you really get to know all about that shortly. And we have the edits, you have the options, and of course under these options you have the preferences. This is where if you want to you know um modify your interface. This is if you want to set password to be able to log into your packet tracer file, whatever you want to show or hide. If you want to increase your font size, if you want to change your font, literally every every modifications you may want to do, you'll be able to do all of that here. So I just little by little increase the font size of my stuff, right? Here, thank you. Tools, extensions, and all of that. And the next most important thing on our Cisco Packet Tracer is the tools bar, right? Very important. The tools bar. And here, of course, the tools bar is like, shortcuts to like, here is like a shortcut to creating a new file, opening a new file. This is save, print, da 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 da. And then, of course, all of these things are things you can always find on the menu bar. And then these are like the most important tools that you really get to use. And this is currently the tool we are all on. You always activate this by pressing the escape key. So this is what you use to select. Anything you select, you can really, if it's a text field, you can maybe type out some modifications. When you're done, you click out. Here is to search, here is to delete, of course. If you activate this and you press here, you'll be asked, do you want to delete? Now, because I've activated my delete, you can also use your keyboard. Once you activate delete, you see this pop up. I do want to delete. So if I don't, if my delete is activated, if I want to leave this delete mode, I can just press escape, right? And this is for notes. This is what you use. You type your notes so that you know you can keep track of whatever it is you're working on, right? And these are all of that drawing line and all of that. And this is something very something pretty cool that you could get to use, you know, the PDU, right? So another most important thing on the Cisco interface is the components, components section, right? And in components, we have a category, and we have the device, right? So where I say, like, if you want to utilize anything in this section is where, hey, you want to set up a network, this is where you get router. Okay, like take for instance this example we opened up here now. They have the 1841, they set up the 1841 router, so we can try to do a setup like that. So how to get that? Under, you come to your end devices. The subcategory is routers, and then you can see that we're already in the router sections by default. Now this is 1841. You just have to scroll on the devices, and yes, here is the 1841. We use three of that, so we can take out three of that. And now next thing we want to do is get us a connector or a cable. And now you see, after the end devices, we have, after the network devices, rather, we have end devices, we have components, we have connections. So we want to use the connections. And of course, under the connections, a subcategory, you're seeing connections and structured catalog. So we're not using structured catalog, but we need a cable. So connections, and you're seeing the different kind of connection. This would automatically choose the connection type. And of course, okay, let's bring out an end device. An end device, of course, subcategory end device, then device should be PC. Or we could get the switch, so network device, subcategory switch, and then we could just get a switch, right? So we know in case if you don't know, in networking you connect like devices. Like, that's when we're saying like devices, we mean router to router, switch to switch. You connect you connect them to you connect them using, you know, the crossover. You connect like devices with the crossover cable. So this copper crossover is what we can use to connect router to router, right? And also, if you choose, right, we can also connect that with the serial cable. So to connect the serial cable, I think we may have to activate. So like you say, I want to activate like a serial port, because when I activated my connector here, as you can see here, all I have is just fast Ethernet, auxiliary, and console. So if I want to like activate, I want to set up I want to use a fiber cable, just like this you see here. What this simply means is that this connection is made via a fiber cable. So you can always come here. You first of all switch off your router, of course. Then we look for fiber. We look for fiber. Um, okay, the dual serial ports. I think this might really be like what we're looking for. So let's put it here. We can now turn back on our router. And we're still going to be working a lot with the CLI. And even in the CLI, you can see the moment our router is turned on, you see it, you know, booting up and stuff. So with that, we can now, if we come to our serial connector, you see, we can connect serial cables. So rather, that was a serial cable. Sorry for the. We can connect our serial cable here, but we can't connect here. We can't connect here because we don't have a serial port, you see, so it fails. So we need to do that same thing for this router. We first of all switch it off. We're zooming in, we're getting that. You see, our router already even had there are some ports available for us to utilize. So even here we can decide to we can't take this out. So we have I think these two ports to install things into. I don't need this. Can just take this out by taking it here. Okay, and we're powering it back on. So we're coming to our serial connector, serial to serial. Right now, why this is showing green, red, I think some other time we'll get to talk about it. So, and of course, when you want to connect unlike devices, so in this case, you want to connect um router to switch, you use the copper straight through. You use the copper straight through. So which are we connecting? Okay, so fast Ethernet 01, maybe let's just use the fast Ethernet 01 port. If you're connecting like devices, like we said, we're using the crossover. So let's say crossover to crossover. I think I'm doing something, I'm just doing something exciting, right? And for this, so yes, you see, like devices are using um um what do they call this again? Straight through. Like devices are using crossover, unlike devices are using straight through, like you can see me do here. So the same thing is going to happen here. You can decide to connect here and bring it here. So you see, so this is really how all the connector stuff work. And in this blue space, in this blue line here, before the connections options, there are some two exciting things you get to see. One is, of course, this is like time. It's showing how much time we spent on our packet tracer, which of course is around 11 minutes. And this is to power cycle devices if we're working on that. Here is to fast forward the time maybe our network is taking to boot or whatever. We want them to go faster. And yes, here we're having two things here. We're having the logical and the physical mode. So this is literally like the physical mode where we get to, you know, do all these routers and all these configurations. We have access to the CLI, into the router, into the switch and all of that. But in the physical mode, it's more like you having these devices like more like that physical representation of the devices and stuff. So and you're going to interact a lot with the physical mode, especially as you proceed with the Cisco Packet Tracer files. There are some of the files where they've made with physical interfaces for testing out, right? And another very exciting thing we can really get to see, like we're talking about down here, is another mode. This is a real-time mode. This is a simulation mode. Real time is of course, see, we are seeing everything we're doing real time. Simulation is maybe when we want to get to simulate something. maybe like traveling a packet from this switch to this PC. Okay, so there's no functional port, right? We are going to be, if we get this all set up, we're going to see packets actually traveling. We're going to see packets actually traveling, like in the simulation. Like as if we're doing a simulation. When we select what we want, we click on play. You can see packets will be, trying to travel to the other ends and stuff. Exactly. This is exactly what I was trying to talk about. We'll see the packets traveling, and we'll see the results here. We can pause this, can close this. As long as we're in the simulation mode, we'll always see all our simulation stuff active. And we'll see on this section is where more like feedback and results of everything on our simulation mode will be displayed. And to leave here and really focus on what we are working on, we all have to come back to the real time and everything disappears. So as we actually go on, working on networks and stuff, we'll really get to that's really the best way to get to really understand the entirety of the interface and how everything works. So you stick with me as we go through this course together. Thank you so much and do have a fantastic learning experience ahead.